In Plants vs. Zombies, the price of a plant never increases. To honor the current situation of our world where everything is getting more and more expensive, I'm playing the inflation mod. Each plant will now cost 50 more sun every time it is planted. We finished all the adventure levels previously. Can we now beat every level in the game to 100% PvZ with inflation? Stick to the end to find out, because this time, we'll be playing out every last mini-game and limo page level to answer this question. Can we beat iZombie with inflation too? Let's see. Before we continue, thank you to the 160,000 of regular viewers, but only 25% are subscribed. So if you're already enjoying the content, just hit the button. You can always unsubscribe later. Back to the video. We begin on ZomBotany. As we know from one column challenge, 2 protected gloom shrooms are enough to beat the entire level. However, we still need to get the sun to plant them. Using our newly accessible imitator, we can choose to spread the inflation on a singular plant over 2 seed packets, and the smartest thing to do is to imitate sunflowers to make them cheaper. After sacrificing a few lawnmowers and planting several twin sunflowers, it is pretty easy to set up the 2 gloom shrooms that we need to beat the level with. The first level might have been easy, but some of the mini-games will become really ridiculous very soon. And that is because the next minigame we're on is Seeing Stars. For obvious reasons, we won't be playing any non-choose your seeds levels in this video. Unlike any other levels in the game, our challenge minigames force you to repeatedly plant the same plants over and over again to complete the art depiction in order to win. Every starfruit will cost 50 more than the last, and this level forces us to plant at least 14 starfruits. Very quickly, I realized that each starfruit would get even more expensive than a cob cannon later on. Not only that, if we lose a starfruit anytime during this level, planting an additional 15th starfruit will set us back at least another 825 sun, and this gets even worse and worse for every eaten starfruit. Getting sun alone is hard enough because of how inefficient sunflowers get, taking a whole 5 minutes to just profit by the time they cost 300 sun, so beating this level is going to be a very long process. To help ourselves stay alive while having only very few plants early on, walnut is particularly useful because it's super cost efficient and can be used multiple times, unlike squash. I can work my way up to 4 starfruits before the first flag at that, which can usually defend off coneheads, but this is still really far away from completing the art challenge. After the first flag is when bucketheads show up, and instead of walnuts, we use Magneshroom against them, as just one Magneshroom can repeatedly remove buckets every wave. This will allow us to defend them without walnuts or instant kills to keep saving some for more and more starfruits. I worked my way up to planting 5 more starfruits by the second flag of the level, and also got a few more sunflowers. By now, it's taking like a minute to just get 1 starfruit. Progress only slows down from here as time-lapsing through this flag. I only get 2 more starfruits up and still have 3 more to go before we can finish the entire drawing. If we don't beat this by the 4th flag, the game will increase the difficulty ramping. We're clenching to beat this in time, and a lot of luck is needed to get favorable spawning. Thankfully, I was just able to pull out a win before the 4th flag and finally planted our last starfruit 12 minutes in. Probably the most time I've ever spent on one playthrough of Seeing Stars. Following an extremely long playthrough of Seeing Stars, we have Bobsled Bonanza, and this level is even longer since it actually has 4 flags. The problem? Well, if a bobsled team comes as the first zombie off the level, it is literally impossible to stop it if you didn't predict its lane with a pre-planted potato mine. We have no sun whatsoever to stop this many zombies early on, even using imitator sunflower for a better early game sun production. Using expensive instants like jalapeno here is never good, since we're just back in the same position immediately the wave after. Some luck is required to survive. It's basically mandatory to not start the level off with a bobsled team so we get a zomboni instead, which gives us ample reaction time instead of an instant loss. This gives just enough time to plant our first cattail to defend against the first group of bobsled teams on the second wave. Even then, it's still pretty close as the last zombie chooses our sunflower. Unfortunately, we can't keep up at this pace since without increasing our income, we won't be able to get many more plants before inflation hits us too hard and makes us lose. Pretty quickly, the hordes of bobsled team overwhelm our one measly cattail, and it seems like we're not even close to defending off here. We'll be using a technique called partitioning. Since I know we are incapable of defending 4 lanes at once early on even with cattail, I can divide the lawn up to 2 parts, the top and the bottom. I'll first focus on building up my plants only on the top half and sacrifice the lawnmowers in the bottom half. This cuts our early game defending costs down by 50% to help our economy get going. Additionally, any activated lawnmowers will stop zombies from spawning in their lane for 2 waves, cramming the zombies in more so that our pre-planted potato mines are more likely to hit and not miss completely. This strategy worked so much better as this allowed us to get up 2 cattails before the first flag to reliably survive against waves of zombie bobsled teams. 2 cattails are able to defend up until the first flag, which then another problem occurs, which is the wave with more than 1 bobsled. We're back to square one now since 2 cattails are not enough against 2 bobsleds. An even better economy than that must be made, so we have to take additional risks by not using imitated potato mine and instead just leaving a lane open, hoping no zombies come. And well, that ended well, didn't it? The chance of that actually happening is 25%, so generally speaking, this strategy should work, usually. Thankfully, I used up my bad luck on the previous one, so there were no skill issues here. Unfortunately, my 1 cattail gets distracted attacking a bobsled team that was meant to be killed by a lawnmower, so it didn't kill a ZomBotany in time and ended up ruining this run as well. This super duper RNG dependent early game is just mainly a fault of the spawning algorithm of the base game. The simple fact is that bobsled teams are just so much harder to deal with compared to ZomBotany's early on. ZomBotany's low speeds allow us to react to them using potato mines or wait for sun to get spikeweed. Bobsled teams on the other hand can only be killed using a pre-planted potato mine. Eventually, with enough luck, this allows us to plant multiple cattails in the early game to kill off the ZomBotanys. Now I'm watching this back, I didn't even notice this while playing, but I was so lucky as there were no bobsled teams that spawned early apart from the one that went straight into our potato mine. Unfortunately, this luck was short-lived as the first flag is the introduction to the sheer bobsled team spam that is unstoppable. Even with 4 cattails, it's a struggle to keep up with the density. I lost a lawnmower and also several sunflowers, but thankfully the game went right back to sending ZomBotanys, so we managed to luck out. If more bobsleds came, I would have certainly lost. Now this is just the process of setting up a spike rock and gatling pea on every lane to secure our defenses. 1 spike rock or gatling will defend a whole lane on its own with the help of 4 cattails. And that about concludes Bobsled Bonanza. Took a few attempts, but we now can speed up the level by 10 times speed and the level is over. Zombie Nimble Zombie Quick is up next, which is yet another 4 flag level, but thankfully it's really not too bad because it's just basically an easier version of Free 9. With the absence of ZomBotanys, Snow Peas regain their former glory, as their slow effect affects all zombies, essentially equivalent to giving us double the time to deal with any zombies. A very simple cattail early game into a full column of Snow Peas easily beats this level. Paired with a few more repeaters and some additional DPS, and it should be impossible to lose. Now the next level has even more flags, because it's Last Stand which is 5 flags, and we can't even make additional sun with sun producers, so we have to manage our resources carefully. Previously, we beat Last Stand using only 1 column, by simply spamming Gloom Shrooms, Pumpkins, and Ice Shroom, so naturally I went for a Snow Pea Gloom Shroom setup first. I mean, surely, instead of using Ice Shroom, we now have permanent slowing in every lane, so this has to work, right? Well, there would be simply one problem that is unavoidable here. We have to replace our pumpkins by the time we reach the 4th flag. Most of them are either dead or at least close to dead. And inflation means that our pumpkins are super expensive. We literally only have enough to afford just 1 more pumpkin and we'll be left with only 50 cents for a squash, which is certainly not enough to protect all these gloom shrooms. Pretty obvious, this is certainly not the way to beat the level, as I can't even plant an ice shroom due to the inflation of the cost of the coffee bean incurred by waking up gloom shrooms. Since not having a good protecting plant was a problem, I brought in the cheapest stalling plant in my next attempt. On top of Imitator Pumpkin, also having Walnut will hopefully do the job. Unfortunately, all I can say here is that even with Walnut, we might have slightly more protection, but it's still cutting it close here by the 4th flag with yet only 1 squash left again. And yes, the amount of football zombies by this point is simply too much for our walnuts to handle, so it's yet another loss in the book, so we need something better than this. Since Walnut and Pumpkin and Imitator Pumpkin is still not enough, I went totally nuts this run bringing all 4 defensive plants. Tallnut might be less efficient initially, but because of its higher health, it scales less relative to inflation, so a 175 cent Tallnut is more efficient than a 100 cent Walnut, if you get what I mean. I'm putting them in the water only so I can block off Dolphin Riders without spending instants or planting new lily pads. Hopefully, just Walnut and Pumpkins are good enough on the ground. And we're back in the same position once again by the 4th flag. This time without even any extra sun to spare for any more. Just 1 wall plant and a bit more separate a win and a loss. It seems like this was finally it. With a bit of luck, we managed to survive through the final wave even with gloom shrooms that were not protected by pumpkins. And that about cleans it up, I think. Alright, and let's just pretend that didn't happen, and we beat Last Stand, okay? I don't know what you're talking about. I totally didn't just spend 10 more minutes playing the same minigame again. We're onto ZomBotany too, and now in this level, I took inspiration from the dumb strategy, which is not using any set to defend early game, instead just using one garlic to protect our economy. This is a risky early game because we lose all lawnmowers early on, but it's in exchange for a good economy long term, which is more important in a free flag level. The benefit of garlic is that just one of them can protect an entire row, moving the pea shooter zombies into empty lanes with nothing to shoot at, so obviously Cattail can pick them off one by one. With a good enough early game economy build up, we're able to easily start affording Gatling Peas before the first flag to defend against tall nut zombies and their tremendous health. This is an extremely effective and minimalistic strategy since you can just use Gatling Peas to cover their own lanes while Cattails will just completely kill off anything in an empty lane. And this level is really not that difficult anymore once we figure out the best way to afford pea shooter zombies is to just move them into empty lanes until we can plant down nuts. Now it's time for Pogo Party, the level where basically only Pogo zombies spawn. My method of handling Pogo zombies in the early game? Nothing. Literally zero. Just don't do anything. Roof cleaners stall out for time while our sunflowers give up enough of a boost to get up gloom shrooms. And as we know from playing 5-4, there's literally nothing the zombies can do after you plant 2 gloom shrooms and a magnet shroom. They just get obliterated due to their low HP. This level is extremely repetitive from here onwards since all we need to do is just plant pumpkins and plant magnet shrooms when Pogo zombies overwhelm us. And there's pretty much nothing else to do apart from watching magnet shroom go to town and silencing the effects of Pogo zombies. And that's actually just it for the official minigames, so now we're moving on to the Nimble page for the remainder of the video. Unfortunately, our challenge walnut is an extremely annoying level since we have to plant a bunch of useless plants that don't help us defend at all to win. To set up early defenses, I have to go with both Repeater and Snow Pea since we're using the Imitator slot for our sunflower for our increasingly expensive walnuts. I make sure to get a defender in every lane before starting work on planting walnuts. They may have high hit points but still perish very quickly without defenders to kill off the zombies. Similar to in Seeing Stars, I get a magnet shroom to make quick work of bucketed zombies and enable our plants to kill those off before they can take a bite out of our walnuts. Then comes the extremely long and lengthy process of planting walnuts. Like, really long. It takes so much time to just sit around for walnut to recharge, so I've sped up the footage. It takes so long, I underestimated the amount of attackers I needed to defend, so I had to replace some sunflowers, making this take even longer when the last walnut cost 600 sun. With enough time, we can indeed beat this by planting down our final walnut and complete the art challenge after a pretty lengthy planting process. The next minigame on our journey to 100% PvZ with inflation is Sunny Day. In this level, Sun from the Sky is worth double, yet the spawn rate is unchanged, so you know it's going to be easy. Just another day in the park where we go for Gloom Shroom being completely busted, and it's just a really easy way to cheese these challenges because of Gloom Shroom's infinite pierce. Oh yeah, did I get that right again? Yup, we're using Magnet Shroom again with Gloom Shroom because this strategy is totally not just a ticket to victory. Yeah, not sure about this, you guys, but this strategy seems kinda mid to me, you know? I have to plant some pumpkins here and there, but that's about it. A lot of effort to be fair. The next level is Unsodded. Zombies come in all 5 lanes, but we can only plant the 3 middle rows, so we need plants that can attack lanes adjacent to theirs. If only there was a mushroom plant that exists that can hurt zombies in the lane next to them, and if only there was another mushroom plant that can affect zombies in all 5 lanes at once. Yup, the way to beat Unsodded is pretty much the exact same. Having the slime lanes are not even relevant in Gloom Shroom strategies because you can just let Coneheads walk right by and get killed. And other than that, Buckets get completely demolished by Magnet Shrooms as per usual, and the remainder of the level is just planting pumpkins. Easy enough when you have 2000 sun. Without a doubt, Unsodded is possibly the easiest level in the entire challenge thanks to how little variation the zombies have, with none of them possessing any special abilities. And oh wow, I wonder what's gonna happen in Big Time, the minigame where sunflowers give you 50 sun instead of 25. As previously showcased, you can beat the entirety of Big Time with just 4 Gloom Shrooms, a Magnet Shroom, and 5 pumpkins, protecting the front with absolutely zero micromanagement. You don't even need to replant pumpkins because the level is just that easy, and that's another level out of the way. The last Art Challenge level is Art Challenge Sunflower. Thankfully, we're not just spamming one singular plant this time around, so there's not much inflation as 775 sun starfruits. I opted to also use snow peas and repeaters in this level, since just the star fruits alone are not enough to kill the zombies themselves with this formation. This is notable though, because we aren't using Magnesia for bucketheads and instead just relying on snow peas or repeaters adding enough damage to allow us to survive. Simply prioritizing only one lane at once is the best way to defend here, especially in the middle lane since the star fruits cannot hit this lane, so defending using a snow pea is necessary. Slowly building up will allow us to beat this level pretty easily as we can start killing off the zombies reliably when getting the second row of star fruits, and from there, it's pretty smooth sailing. Just remember to start planting walnuts in advance because it has a slow recharge while Umbrella Leaf has a fast recharge, but it is a fairly easy level compared to the other ones. High Gravity is the level where gravity is higher than usual, so projectiles shot by plants all fall to the ground. Oh wait, is there a mushroom plant that can only damage zombies nearby but doesn't use projectiles? And is there another mushroom plant that uses physics to pull metal? Right! Not sure what you expected from this level other than just it's another party for how busted Gloomshroom is. The most simple solution to almost every level ever. Such balanced. The next level is Air Raid. This level is extremely deadly since the entire level is just purely balloon zombie spam, and all things that target balloon zombies are also extremely expensive. Cactus is super cost inefficient for its ability to only target one lane, and moreover, Blover isn't even good because each other Blover will cost 50 more than its previous. This leaves Cattail as the last option. We only have 3 Sun producers and already have to start saving up for Cattail since we cannot profit from more Sun producers fast enough due to inflation. This is not a good look here. Thankfully though, it is just enough to plant down the first Cattail just in time before any balloon zombies can show up in the lane without a lawnmower. We have to make sure to get more Sun producers as soon as possible after planting a Cattail because very soon, the game will start sending 2 balloon zombies a wave and that will be a huge problem for only 1 Cattail to deal with. On the first wave where the zombie sends them 2 balloon zombies at once, we utilize our only free Puffstream to add that little bit of bonus damage needed, and we're still quite a while away from our next Cattail. Thank God though, because we still have our 25 Sun Scaredy Shroom to help us out at a little bit more damage to barely defend off these balloon zombies to give us just a bit more time to make Sun. This Scaredy Shroom will be just about what we need to let us save up for a second Cattail. With 2 Cattails, the level is over now as 2 Cattails can beat every single wave on their own here. I used a few Blovers to speed up the last few waves, and that's how to beat Air Raid with inflation. The next level is Grave Danger. Unfortunately, nighttime means Sun is much harder to come by, and we can only defend using the conventional nighttime strategies we had in Adventure. I chose to go with Imitator Scaredy Shroom as it is by far the best early game plant with inflation. For just 25 Sun more than Puffshroom, solos a Conehead, and lasts for the duration of the level. The early game was pretty easy thanks to the efficiency of Scaredy Shrooms as well as the few Puffshrooms I have access to. I'll also include a Fume Shroom to help do some more damage. However, the first problem is present in this level. Zombies spawn from gravestones on the first flag as well as the final wave, so the density of zombies is actually higher than usual, and this overwhelms our defenses very quickly. With practically a zombie breaking through in every single lane here, this run is completely over by the looks of it, since I didn't even bring Doomshroom to help myself out. On my second attempt, I made sure to do a bit more planning to better position my plants. Some producers are put in the second column so I can have Scaredy Shrooms all the way in the back. This increases our damage output more, which gives us just a little bit of edge we need for the first flag where there are more zombies than usual. Additionally, I also waited for the first flag to hit before planting a Fume Shroom or my second Puff Shroom to see which lanes needs extra attackers in. On top of that, I also spent a walnut to protect my Puff Shroom to keep up as many plants as possible. It's all about the smart planning ahead of time to make sure we're in the clear. From here on out, we use Magnesium again to make sure Bucketheads can't break through our lineup with their massive amounts of hit points. It's extremely important to keep all lawnmowers for the final wave, as every gravestone that was summoned will add an additional zombie den, and we don't have Doomshroom. And by doing so, we ignore the fact that the last wave's monstrosity amount of zombies by simply using our lawnmowers, and that's actually the last Choose Your Seats minigame completed. On top of the minigames and Nimble page levels, the inflation mod also works on iZombie, so we'll be giving those a stab and see if the inflated price of zombies affects us as well. The first level is quite generous with the amount of sunflowers available for us to get sent out of, so it's relatively easy to just beat every lane with Buckethead or football zombies. Now the next level is mostly just a screen door zombie spam level. Not even 2 spike leads can take out a screen door zombie, so we don't really have that many issues yet with sufficient sunflowers. Now, Can You Dig It is the third level of iZombie. Despite what the game tells you to do, digger zombies are actually not that good since Bucketheads can mow down an entire lane on its own anyways. Totally Nuts is the first level where the effect of inflation is really kicking in. It is characterized by an entire column of walnuts in the front, where you are expected to use ladders to climb over. Since the ladder zombie cannot survive in a lane where there are 2 attackers, we need to allocate resources smartly to beat this level. My first attempt was a fail without the proper order of zombies, so I had to try again. On my second attempt, I first used 2 ladder zombies to beat the 2 lanes with only 1 pea shooter each for the sun there. Then, instead of using a ladder zombie, I used 2 bucket heads to beat the middle lane where there are always 2 fume shrooms. This is cheaper than placing another ladder zombie, meaning I can finally use a ladder zombie with a basic zombie for one of the lanes with a snow pea and a pea shooter with a sunflower at the back. And then the hardest lane with a snow pea all the way in the back is beaten with a ladder zombie to first get sun, and then a bucket head to mow down the lane. Next up is Dead Zeppelin. Now this level expects you to utilize the balloon zombie to beat the level, but the solution is much simpler. There is a lane with only 1 pea shooter, so I use a basic zombie to clear that lane. Then with the sun from that basic zombie, I can use a bungee zombie on the Magnet Shroom. Without the Magnet Shroom, I can easily beat any remaining lanes with just a buckethead zombie in each lane. Pretty easy solution. Me Smash is the easiest of the iZombie levels. Pole Vaulter in lane 2 and 4 are almost always enough unless your Kernel Pult luck is rotten, which unfortunately I had, but it's not a big deal. Then you just use basic zombies to activate the squashes, and you can beat every other lane with bucketheads or a Gargantuar. Inflation is not very impactful here since we're only repeating the same zombie type at most twice. Zomboogie is usually beaten by using a bunch of basic zombies, but we can't do that here due to inflation, heavily restricting us from using the same zombie type a lot of times. However, we can indeed see that one of the lanes has only 2 potato mines and 3 sunflowers. This means 2 pole vaulters can easily clear this lane out to allow us to use Dancing Zombie. The solution then is very obvious. With an empty lane, Dancing Zombie will infinitely resummon backup dancers until both the lane above it and below it is completely dead. This means that we get to use another Dancing Zombie in lane 2 to clear out the remaining 2 lanes. With only 2 pole vaulters, 1 basic zombie, and 2 dancing zombies as the solution, this is the most minimalistic solution I could find for this level. Free Hit Wonder is the second to the last iZombie level, and this level is surprisingly easy. The amount of sunflowers is still extremely generous and we don't struggle with inflation. And you may be wondering, what's the point of all these iZombie levels if they were just a cakewalk? Well, there's the last level of the iZombie series. Welcome to All Your Brains Are Belong to Us. This is by far the most difficult level out of all the iZombie levels. Firstly, we can clearly see that we don't have Dancing Zombie, so to beat either the Chomper lane or Potato Mine lane, we're going to have to place a zombie for every single instant kill. Then comes the question of how do you even beat lane 4. 3 pea shooters with a Torchwood means most high health zombies just die, not even mentioning a Magnet Shroom is in lane 5. To add on to the difficulty, we can't even use Digger Zombie to clear out lane 2 because there's a split pea there. It seems like it's completely impossible to even do anything here. However, I very quickly realized the solution to the level, and it's actually pretty ironic. Well, here, I'm restarting the level over and over again until I get the correct formation of plants in the 4th and 5th lane. This is because we are utilizing the Magnet Shroom to attract the Digger Zombie's pickaxe, so it can come off the ground midway and avoid the Torchwood to beat the lane easily. This can only be done if the Magnet Shroom is specifically at the very back of lane 5, so the Digger Zombie doesn't just come off the ground immediately. This means that I now have enough sun to spend it on 2 ladder zombies to beat the entirety of lane 2, which is only pea shooting plants. I then used 2 bucketheads in the bottom lane with 1 used to distract the Magnet Shroom, and the other one should break through the entire lane. After beating the middle lane with a combination of coneheads and imps, I realized the problem. I don't have enough sun to even get pole vaulters to beat the first lane. This is because the sunflowers in the first lane were placed in the very back by chance in this attempt specifically, so I couldn't make additional sun to afford even more pole vaulters to win. This means on top of having to get lucky at the bottom, we also have to get lucky at the top and get sunflowers near the front in the first lane to beat this level. It took me about 5 minutes of rerolls, but eventually we got the formation that we needed to beat the level with. Repeating everything we did in our original attempt to beat this level, we can beat the last level of iZombie with 0 sun remaining, an extremely precise solution to this very RNG level at that. So, the answer is yes, we can indeed beat all the remaining levels in the game with inflation. And no, I'm not gonna play survival because it would just be caught Ganon spam anyways. And this mini-series of the inflation mod comes to an end. In the future, I will find even more wacky ways to beat Plants vs Zombies with different game mechanics. If you want to see more of this, subscribe so you can stay tuned to when I post something like this with more interesting twists and challenges to come, and thank you to channel members for your support as always. For now, have a great day and thanks for watching.